Hey guys, welcome to the 53rd episode of the Learning Podcast. And if you aren't sure, it's a Singaporean podcast dedicated to learning something new from every single guest on this show. And today I have a guest that I met through an agency, which is the same agency that I had a podcast last week with Puvin as well. Her name is Chela.
Yes, hello.
Chela is actually the first Korean guest on this podcast, so I'm actually quite fascinated. She's currently a year 2 NTU business student, and she moved to Singapore from South Korea when she was primary 2. So I think the one thing that I really want to find out from her perspective is that how is it like growing up as, you would say, a foreigner and possibly localized after more than a decade of studying in Singapore. So I think that is quite an interesting story to learn as well. A little bit more context about Chela. She learned English from scratch. She studied visual arts at the school SOTA. So I think that I have a lot of friends that go to SOTA actually. But I think I saw this news article that says that actually many people who go to SOTA don't eventually go on to do whatever they study at SOTA as their main profession. So I think that I just wanted to ask her because obviously she's an artist. She studied visual arts. To be honest, I'm not exactly sure what visual arts is, so I'm going to ask you about that later. And the thing special about Chela is that she was featured on 8 Days in Asia 1 and she helped her dad and his hawker business during the circuit breaker period. So I think I did saw that Facebook post whereby because during the COVID period, obviously the F&B industry has been hit quite severely. So I believe that she, in fact, doubled her dad's business through social media marketing. So I'm quite fascinated about that. F&B is a really traditional business, and I'm actually very interested to know the behinds of the scenes of what it takes to run an F&B business, because it's very easy to judge when your favorite store increased price by 50 cents, right? But there is always a story behind that, and I'm sure that Chela, from her experience with helping her father as well, would have this kind of experience. And yes, she's currently a year 2 NTU business student. I'm interested to see, just ask from her perspective, how is it like being a business student at NTU? Because I have many friends that went there as well, and I hear very differing opinions on that. Like some people say they hated it. It's like the worst, they regretted it so much. So or others said that it was very good and it was what they wanted as well. So I'm just interested to know from her perspective how it's like as well. So a couple of reasons why I think this podcast will be useful to listen to. Growing up in Singapore as a foreigner and becoming localized in that sense. When I went to Korea, the thing I didn't like about Korea is a very beautiful place, don't mistake me, right? But the thing I didn't really like is I couldn't really communicate with the people there. And language barrier is one thing. So what I faced there was technically what Chela faced in Singapore as well. So I think that there is always a story to how you adapted and overcome the challenge. And hopefully it will be somehow inspiring to anyone who might be interested to pick up a language accordingly. And second reason, life as an NTU business student. And the third reason, I'm very interested to find out of her perspective on her what's next in her career, as in after graduation, because I always like to ask reflective questions, right? Right now, my company actually paid for a life purpose course for me, and they're throwing me a lot of difficult questions. So I actually copied some of the questions like my previous podcast, so I'm just going to ask her very quick questions on what her thoughts are on that. Sorry for the long intro, Chela. For those listeners that don't know who you are, if I have missed anything out, do you want to add on anything to that?
I think you did a very good introduction of me. Maybe one thing I can add on is I'm 22 years old.
Very young. Oh my gosh, very young. Okay, I feel like an old man. Okay, so going all the way back, right? Could you maybe share the first conversation you had with your father or parents where they told you as like P2, how old were you when you were P2? 9, 10?
I think 9 years old.
Yeah, what was that first conversation when your parents came to you and said that we are moving to Singapore? Like as a 9-year-old kid, like what was crossing through your mind, and with your siblings as well?
My parents just showed me a map and they pointed to a very small island and they told me we are going here. And I said, where is this? And they said, it's Singapore. And I said, I don't know what Singapore is. And they just said, follow me. So I just followed them.
Wow. I mean, do you have an older sibling, or is your brother older or younger than you?
My brother is 3 years older than me.
Also, did he tell you anything about it, or was he equally confused? Were you confused? Were you excited? Were you exhilarated? Or do you hated that you're leaving all your friends back in Korea and coming to a foreign country?
I was very excited because I really like to try out new things, but I was a bit sad about leaving my friends behind. Yeah.
I know this is a weird conversation for a 9-year-old. I mean, do you tell your friends about it? How did they react to you? And yeah, I mean, what's the perception of Singapore among Koreans back then in your community? If you even remember, I know it's so young, right? But if you have any inkling from there.
Actually, back then when I told my friends or even some of my younger cousins, they all shook their head and they were like, what is Singapore? Then I was like, I'm also not sure, but I'm going there anyways. So I think the perception of Singapore in Korea is relatively unknown. I don't know if it's because I was very young then.
Got it, got it. Did your extended family move here, or is it just your family unit who moved here?
Just my family. Yeah.
In your father's words, why did he move to Singapore?
He said that Singapore is the only country you can learn both English and Chinese at the same time. So he wanted us to learn a few more languages other than Korean. So that's the main reason why we came here.
So that was the main reason, is it?
Yeah, that's the main reason.
So you speak Chinese as well?
Yeah, I can.
So when you came to Singapore, like, did you study mother tongue? What was your mother tongue? Your mother tongue is Korean and Chinese.
No, my mother tongue is just Chinese. I also studied there from scratch also. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, so maybe you can paint for listeners when you first came to Singapore. I mean, how was it like interacting with like first Singaporeans? It wasn't really traditional English. So how were you first onboarded in taking on this entirely new language?
I actually don't remember the first experience. I just remember being very nervous. I sat there, I just like stared at the wall. And I was so anxious that I didn't know what to do. So I just smiled at everybody until they came to talk to me first. Yeah.
At that point of time, like, do you know English already or zero knowledge?
No, I didn't even know a single alphabet.
What was the biggest difficulty in terms of picking up English for you?
I think it was the fact that I had no friends, so I felt very lonely. And one example is the girl that sat next to me, she actually came to me, then she asked me, do you like to copy? And I heard it as, do you like coffee? So I said, yes, I really love it. And then she just, like, she didn't want to be friends with me.
Oh, you still remember those
Yeah, I
instances,
still remember
is
because
it?
I was very hurt by it.
Which primary school do you go to?
I went to Lianhua Primary School. It's a very neighborhood school in Bukit Batok, but I think it's merged with another school now. Yeah.
Got it. So, I mean, during your primary school days, was it smooth and easy? Were you like acing your exams in terms of English? Like, what was how did you force yourself to pick up English to where you are right now?
I think the driving force was that I wanted to make friends because I really like to hang out with people. So using that as a driving force, I tried to watch a lot of English dramas. Then from there, I imitated how they spoke. But the only difference was that Singaporeans spoke Singlish. So I had to try to like somehow fit that into what my friends spoke and try to fit in. So I think that was very difficult for me. Yeah.
I mean, how was the conversations like with your brother? Your brother came in, is it like P5 or P6?
P5.
So how did he cope with it? Who coped better in your opinion?
I think I coped better. Because,
Really?
Yeah,
How so?
because my brother's friends are in primary 5, so they're a bit more mature than primary 2 students. So I think they found it more difficult to kind of like cater to him. Because I think kids my age were more like, they just want to play hopscotch and like play catching. But my brother's friends wanted like to have deeper conversations, I think. So I think for him it was harder.
So like, did he talk to you about it, or like how did he overcome it and versus how do you overcome it? Was there like a big difference?
I think because he was a boy, so he just played a lot of sports with his friends. And that's how he bonded. So he didn't have to talk much to bond.
Oh, didn't have to talk much. Okay. So moving forward to PSLE, right? I mean, okay, one thing I'm very interested of why did you go to SOTA and why did you study visual arts?
Oh, I was always passionate about drawing and in like just like designing and animations and stuff like that. Yeah, so that's why I chose visual arts. But actually, one thing is I didn't know what SOTA was at first also. I just went in because I knew that like they taught art. So I was very excited, so I went in.
I mean, do you have this conversation with your parents? Like, you wanted to pursue arts? What did you think about it? Or are they generally supportive of whatever you wanted to do, even if you are being a professional artist or being like a corporate banker? Was it any concern to them?
My parents are supportive of anything I do as long as I'm happy. Oh, yeah.
Okay. I mean, what's a 101 to visual arts? I'm not very sure what visual arts means. Do you literally like draw stuff or?
There's a few specializations in SOTA. So there's painting, ceramics, film, and many other visual art forms. I think, cannot really remember now. But I specialize in painting. So I did like paintings on canvases and stuff like that.
Do you still paint?
No, not anymore. I don't think there's a time.
No time already.
Yeah.
Why?
There's too much assignments.
So much assignments. Okay, that's interesting. So why didn't you pursue of all your classmates, I'm just interested, like a sample size of one, right? How many of your classmates actually went on to pursue what they studied at SOTA as a professional career? Whether if it's in the music, arts, visual arts, just a sample size in your opinion. And perhaps why didn't you want to take that step towards pursuing visual arts as a profession?
Maybe only 6 out of 4, like 6 to 4. 6 of them went to pursue and 4 of them didn't. And usually,
that's quite large.
Yeah, that's quite large. Usually when I ask them, and for myself, when arts becomes something that's graded and it becomes an assignment, it becomes a source of stress and it's no longer enjoyable. So I felt like I'm not going to be happy doing this. So I'd rather study rather than to study arts.
So you will say that SOTA killed your passion in the arts?
Yeah, I don't think... yeah, it kind of did.
Okay, I mean, I feel very sad about it. Like, what? But I do agree because I also have some friends that like when you rely on it as a fun one, as an income, right? Then it becomes different as assignment as well. Was this a gradual process, or like eventually, like year 2, year 3, you felt that okay, this is what I didn't want to do anymore? When did you decide that you didn't want to do arts as a career?
I think up till year 3, I was still quite passionate and bubbly about it. But there was one time my teacher criticized me in front of the entire class.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and since then I felt very conscious and I didn't want to showcase my art anymore. So I think that's a starting point of when my passion started to drop.
Oh my god, I feel so sad about that. But you really aren't painting at all. So since then, you haven't involved yourself in visual arts anymore.
I think I do a bit of designing for my school stuff, like the posters and stuff like that. But for the traditional art forms, no, I don't really do them anymore.
Okay, got it. So I'm just curious, like during your period of studying, let's say in SOTA, right, and at the same time growing up in Singapore, right? I mean, how did you involve yourself in helping your dad in what he did as a hawker?
As a hawker? Oh, when he first started out being a hawker, I had to help him translate the documents. So it was quite daunting for me at first also because I didn't understand the difficult terms and the jargons and stuff like that. So I had to use Google Translate and I translated the entire document for
What year
him.
was this?
That was when I was in year 1 or 2 of SOTA. So secondary 1, secondary 2. Yeah.
Why didn't was it mainly you helping or your brother helping?
It was mainly me.
Why? Why is it not your brother?
My brother's English wasn't as good as me, I feel. Because his foundation wasn't as good as mine. Because he had to rush to learn it, but I had a more gradual process of learning it. Yeah.
Got it. Did he go to SOTA?
No, he went to Yusof Ishak secondary school.
So eventually his path and your path was quite different.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, got it. I mean, so as a Sec 1 kid, as a Sec 2 kid, were you like actively helping your dad like on a daily basis with the business, or is it once in a while he'll reach out to you, or is it your mom would be helping
I
instead?
think you mean physically at the store?
Physically at the store, admin wise.
Physically at the store, my brother would be there because my dad doesn't trust me to do that kind of thing.
Oh really?
Yeah. Yeah, but then I usually be at home doing the document stuff and my brother will be the one at the store handling the food.
For someone that doesn't know anything about F&B, which is me, like what are the things that people take for granted and don't know about?
Don't know about? Oh, give me a while.
I mean, given that you have like work on the back end, right? Because I don't even know how to run a hawker. I mean, what is overlooked when it comes to what do people take for granted of when it's something very important in the hawker business?
I think people assume that coffee shops or hawker centers are very unhygienic because of the way it looks. But actually, we take a lot of pride in cleaning and like washing our hands and stuff like that. I think that's one thing that's overlooked. And the second thing is, actually, my dad wakes up at around 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. every day to prep the ingredients. But people think that he just works from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. But he works actually from 4 a.m. up to 11 p.m. So I think that's the number one thing that I wish people know.
The hard work, right?
Yeah,
when
the
it comes
hard work.
to ingredient preparation.
Yeah.
How often do you help him, or like, how often do you help him, or like, was it something that you active? Is he the kind of parent that like he's really working for himself and really wants to provide the best for his children as well, or was he always like, hey, come help me out? What kind of parent is your father like?
My dad is like the Superman to me. He will do anything for the family and he always showers me a lot of affection and a lot of love. So I'm very grateful for that.
How about your brother?
My brother, you mean as a brother?
No, how, do you see a difference between how he treats you and your brother? I'm not sure whether it's a Korean thing or like a Singaporean thing, but just very random questions.
I think he dotes on me way more than he dotes on my brother.
And how does your brother feel about that? How do you think does your brother feel about that?
He says that he doesn't care, but I think sometimes he also wishes that maybe there's a bit more affection, I think. Yeah.
Got it. What were the biggest challenges when it came to you helping your dad's business?
I think other than the language part, which I can just learn in my own time, just working at the coffee shop itself was very daunting because the environment is not like other restaurants or other outside places with aircon. So I was very intimidated by all the uncles and the aunties that would like shout at you impatiently or they would like scold you. It was like very scary for me.
Is there a story that you can tell? Like, I don't know, my perception of ordering a hawker. Yeah, what's your perception? Because I'm sure being at a customer service line, right, you will see, let's say, terrible customers, good customers. Is there any story that you have when it comes to your brief time in interacting with customers?
Oh, I can only think of the good ones, surprisingly. I had customers like making moon cakes for our family because they felt our food was really nice. I also had other like parents, like people that are the same age as my parents, they'll come and tell me, oh, you're a very good daughter, and they'll compliment me. And those things will make my day. But on the other hand, there are also people that like sometimes they shout at me. They ask me like, why is the order taking so long? And they will blame
So they
me
literally
for it.
shout at you, is it?
Yeah, they
Oh
will
my
shout
gosh,
and point
horrible
fingers.
Singaporeans. But that's the most that you escalated to, like just people having a bad day and just verbally
Yes.
assaulting.
Yeah.
And how does a dad respond to such situations?
Most of the time, he's too busy cooking because there's too many customers. Yeah.
Okay, so basically he doesn't have time for this kind of
Yeah,
drama.
he really doesn't.
Okay, I mean that is a good thing. Could you maybe share the story of how you even got featured on 8 Days in Asia One? Like how did the story come about where you really gave a helping hand into helping your dad's business?
So actually, it started when my grandmother, she used to help out my dad at the store as well.
Wait, your grandmother's in Singapore also?
My paternal side.
Oh,
yeah.
okay,
So my
okay.
dad's mom. Then she kind of fell sick for a while, so I had to go and replace her. Then I just sat there because the business was quite bad during the circuit breaker times. That's all my dad like sighing and then looking sad. So I just wanted to like, how can I help him in this? And then I thought, oh, social media. So I went to Facebook and I searched for like pages or any kinds of advertisements I can do. Then just nice at the moment, I was recommended to this page called Hawkers Tapao 2020.
So it's a Facebook group, is it?
Yeah, it's a Facebook group.
Community. Got
Yeah,
it.
which now grew very big, I think. Yeah. Then I just posted some photos of my dad's cooking and photos of me and my dad also. Yeah, and I just wrote a background story and introduced them to our food. And surprisingly, on the day itself, there was a long queue forming. Like just on the day itself of posting it. So I was very amazed at the power of social media.
On a daily basis, what's the average number of orders? And like after that, what's the average number of orders do you get?
Well, I don't remember the number of orders, but I think when it was circuit breaker time, we only could earn like 200, 300 a day.
Revenue.
Just the like pure sales. Then afterwards, it will go up to 1K or more than 1K.
Wow, that must be freaking busy. Got it. So actually, do you run paid ads or basically it's just a Facebook community that really promoted like F&B businesses accordingly?
I think it's just the Facebook community and the people sharing it. So it kind of grew very big.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
good. Like so like did like a representative from like Asia One 8 Days reach out to you, or like how did it that I think it's like a PR thing. Like how did that come about?
Oh, somebody contacted me for 8 days and she asked me for an interview. As for Asia One, I don't know. They didn't contact me or anything. They just,
Cope the content over, is it?
yeah, I think just one day I just saw it. Then I was like, oh.
What have you learned from this instance in terms of social media marketing that you feel that are maybe active steps? I'm not sure whether like are you doing anything right now to help your dad's business, because technically there's really so many creative ways to market a traditional F&B business now. But what have you learned from this, and how are you further helping him, or are you not further helping him right now because you're busy studying?
Oh, I'm helping him out every weekends, like physically at the store. In terms of Facebook advertisements, I've stopped doing them because I realized that the more I post, the number of likes decrease. I think it's because
When you say
it
Facebook
doesn't-
advertisements, are you running paid ads?
No.
Okay.
Just on the group itself.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
There's a big difference. Okay, but okay, that's interesting. So basically, you physically help at the store, but is there things that you're doing on the side? I don't know, like designing stuff, making videos. How do you market the hawker business?
I just take videos and photos of his food and I write up a short story to accompany it so that it feels more personal, it feels more homely, so that when they read it, they feel like they're not just eating, they're just eating a story also.
Wow. Okay, that's very nice. Aside from this Facebook community, is there other places where you actively promote your dad's business? Maybe on Reddit, maybe on other communities, or like mainly is this kind of food groups that are really helping in that sense?
Okay, so actually only Facebook, and sometimes on my Insta story, I'll just try to promote it to my friends. Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. What kind of conversations do you have with your friends when it comes to your dad being involved in the hawker business? Like, are they like generally supportive, or like what kind of common questions do they always ask you? Because even for me, I personally don't have a lot of friends that have parents working in a hawker business, because it is quite a very tough thing to do as well.
I think the first thing that they say is, so do you eat good food every day?
Okay,
Yeah.
do you eat good food every day?
Yes, I do.
Awesome. So like, what kind of questions do they ask you? Like, aside from that, like, are they fascinated? Are they skeptical? What kind of attitude do your friends generally have, or is it like usually indifferent?
They're pretty indifferent about it. I think we don't discuss much about our dad's occupations that openly. Yeah.
Okay, got it. That's very, very interesting. Okay, moving on to your time at NTU Business, right? How do you feel about NUS Business School? NUS, oh my gosh. How do you feel about NTU Business School?
So far, I'm having quite a good time.
Okay, sorry,
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt. One step back, right? Why business? Why NTU business? Why not NUS business? Why not SMU business? Or did studying overseas was something you consider as well?
I never actually considered studying overseas because I'm already overseas from Korea.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So I took higher level economics because I took IB exam. Then I scored pretty well in economics. I thought that I wanted to study economics, so I applied for NUS and I got rejected. So
NUS what? Which course?
NUS FASS. Yeah. So I took a gap year to recollect and try to really think again what course I want.
Wait, you
Yeah.
took a gap year?
Yeah.
Wow, that's something that not many people do. So I mean, I find it quite daring. Like I won't say a lot of people dare to take it because like 1 year seems like a lot of time, particularly when you're young. But why a gap year?
I didn't want to risk wasting my time studying something that I didn't like.
Wow.
Yeah, so I
okay.
went to work a lot of different kinds of jobs, like different kinds of part-time jobs, F&B, retail, like just admin jobs and everything. I tried everything until I realized that I like the business aspect of each industry. So I thought that I should be studying business.
When you say the business aspect, what specifically do you mean? Mainly sales, meaning business development, or like which working experience informed you that it was something that you wanted to do? Which specific part of business are you referring to?
Oh, I've tried doing sales, like being a salesperson, and I realized I really enjoyed the job.
What do you sell?
I sold earrings.
Wow.
At a
Okay.
Korean store.
Okay.
Yeah, and that really sparked my interest in like how a business works. I was very interested how are profits made. So I decided I'm going to study business, and I applied for both NTU and SMU, and I got accepted into both. But I chose NTU.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay. Why NTU over SMU?
From what I hear from my friends, I'm not sure, but NTU's business school is better
Oh,
than
okay, okay.
NUS business school. I'm not sure.
I mean,
Yeah.
to me, actually, it's rather the same thing, right? Okay, so move like on to right now, right? How do you find NTU Business School? Some of my friends tell me that they like the fact that NTU gives you only 3 years
Yes,
and you can
yes.
graduate very
Yeah.
fast, whereas some people feel that. I have one friend who went to NTU Business School, Zihao, if you're watching, right? He actually hated it so much that he started learning software engineering on his own. And so right now he's a software engineer at Grab. How do you feel about NTU Business School? Because I have a lot of friends that have extreme emotions about it.
Extreme emotion.
Yeah, I don't know. Just from my social circle.
Oh, I'm actually having quite a good time. I have not much complaints about it actually.
Oh, no one complains. Okay, what do you like about it?
I like the content that they teach. I think it's very applicable to daily life. Not like the things we will learn back in like SOTA, where you can't really apply it to your daily life. I don't know if it's because I'm learning business, but I feel like when I learn something in class, I can apply outside. I think that's quite cool.
Is there an example? Is there a story? Like specifically, let's say, is it a marketing class? Is it a finance class? Was it an operations management class? Like, how applicable was university to what you did outside compared to SOTA?
I think one module that helped me the most is the communications module. So it helped me how to structure my points and how to create a very captivating story. And that's actually how I structured my story on Facebook. And I realized that, wow, it really works.
How do you write a
Yeah.
story?
How to I just,
For one
yeah.
on one. I mean, is there a structure?
Yeah.
Some people say that there are certain frameworks you need to build a conflict accordingly. I don't know, like, what's your thought process in writing stories? How do you write stories? Just in a very general sense.
I think the favorite one I like to use is pathos
Okay, what's pathos? I don't even know what's that.
to evoke an emotional response.
Okay.
Yeah, because the strength that my professor told me that I have is that I can evoke emotions in the readers or the audience.
Okay.
So I felt that should be the number one thing that I should tackle. So when I wrote the Facebook story, I made sure to highlight more on like our family background more so than the food.
The story behind the food. Because the food at the end of the day is just a commodity.
You put it that way.
In a sense.
Yeah, you put it that way.
So what kind of stories do you tell? Like what kind of that family aspect do you share? In verbal words of what you wrote.
I just shared about how we're actually Koreans from Korea, cooking Korean food. And I think that in itself was already quite a big
You
story.
can't get more authentic
Yeah.
than that.
I think that was a selling point for a lot of Singaporeans.
Okay, got it. I need to check out some of these. What Facebook groups do you refer to? Maybe I'll check them out.
Hawkers United Tapao 2020.
Are you involved in like those Telegram groups as well? I'm sure there are some. Oh no, is it?
Nah,
Okay, maybe it's
no.
a channel that you can explore
Yeah.
as well. Okay, what do you not like about NTU Business School?
What do I not like?
Yeah, or is it really perfect? Is it like I'm sure there's always two differing sides as well. I mean, is literally the perfect school for you. And let's say if there's anyone who's listening that might be interested to work. Oh my gosh, to study in NTU Business School, right? What kind of advice would you give him or her? onto the realities of how it is like being an NTU business school. Because right now you're painting a very rosy picture. Not to say that you shouldn't paint a rosy picture, but I think that there are like ups and downs at the same time. So obviously I can tell that you really like what you're doing at NTU Business School, but is there any caution or kind of advice that you give others when it comes to studying business?
The only thing that I struggled with is the stats module and business operations module, because they are very math based, and I thought that business was more of like the talking and the theory, so I didn't think that I have to use my math knowledge because I'm not very good at it, and I kind of struggle a lot at it. So I think that's the thing that I want to warn people about. I thought that if you go into business, you just study marketing and you'll be all about writing essays, but actually there's a lot of math involved. I wish someone told me that.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
that's interesting. For yourself, what are you currently majoring in? Like there's finance, there's operations, like what's your favorite?
Oh, I'm specializing in marketing now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Why marketing over the others?
I feel like marketing will never die and it cannot be replaced by any robots. So I feel like even in the long run, when I'm 50 years old or 60 years old, you'll still be there.
Not like finance, is it like what, robo-advisors that replaced by robots, is it? Okay. Like, is there any kind of internship experiences that you have done or like that really reaffirmed that marketing is something you wanted to do, or like you just chose marketing because you're bad with numbers and you didn't want to choose the others and did it based on an elimination basis?
Actually, I think the experience of marketing my dad's business was what actually made me realize marketing is very powerful. Even if the content itself or the food itself is not the best, if you market it well, people will think that it's good. So I realized that marketing is a really powerful tool in a business.
Do you use it in a bad way?
No, I don't.
What do you think of people who use it in a bad way?
I don't think
Okay.
I don't think I know of any of those stories.
No worries. Okay, yeah, that's kind of interesting, right? What's the kind of top 3 things that you feel are the most important things when it comes to excelling as a university student?
As a university student, I think consistency is very important, because if you miss out on your work just one time, it will pile up like really fast. So I think that's really important. And efficiency, because you have limited time in university, and if you want to enjoy like all the hall life, your CC activities, you should really know how to be efficient in your time. And you just have to enjoy yourself. I think number 3 is enjoyment, because you're only young once, and if you go out and work, because during my gap year when I worked, I really hated the corporate life. So I think I'll miss studying a lot. So I think I would say tell them to treasure the time. Yeah, and don't be too stressed out.
Got it. Can I go back to the gap year, right? What kind of things, like for example the corporate part, right? What kind of corporate jobs were we involved that you didn't like? And obviously that informed you of the things that you didn't want to do in the future. So I mean, could you share more about that? Like how do you get into such roles and what do you not like about it and the lessons learned from there?
I work at an aviation company as a logistics manager.
Aviation company.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
And not only did I not know anything about aviation, I just felt that spending my day every day from 9 to 5 was very, very tiring. And I felt no motivation to go to work. And I felt very lonely because everyone was not my age. So I felt like this...
Not your age, as in they're like a lot older, is it?
Yeah, they're
or-
a lot older than me. Yeah.
When it came to applying places to work at during your gap year, right, was it more of like a mass application? Like you wanted to get as much experience as possible and just took any opportunity that came your way? Or were you more intentional of testing out certain industries that you might be interested in and finding from there? Like how was your approach in terms of finding opportunities during your gap year?
I applied to anything that looked special to me or looked different to me. So any chance that I had, I grabbed. Yeah.
Oh, so anything basically.
Yeah, just anything. I just
What
really
interests you? Sales, retail, marketing. How did logistics come into place? Like logistics doesn't seem to fit the picture. Like what was the story of how you got into there?
When I applied for the job, he just told me it was an admin job. So I thought that I just had to do like the typing and stuff like that. But when I actually went to work on the first day, he told me you're going to be in charge of logistics. And that's how I started doing logistics, although I didn't know anything about it.
For 101, or what specifically do you do in logistics from there? Like what do you do?
If I remember correctly, I just took care of the invoices and stuff like that. I sent out a lot of emails, I called companies and stuff like that.
Was it like a contract basis?
No,
How long was it?
It was a full-time job, but I only stayed there for 1 month and a half.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Is there any other stories from your gap year which were quite interesting?
I think my favorite job was working at USS. I work at
You work at USS?
Yeah, I work at
My
USS.
gosh. Okay.
I work at the Minion Mart. You have to wear like Minion costumes.
Okay.
Yeah, then it was the most fun time of my life because everyone was wearing Minion costumes, right?
Isn't it very hot?
Yeah. Oh, no, it's just a t-shirt and overalls.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So basically, is it like on a weekend basis, on a shift basis? Like how is working at USS like?
Or you can just work on any time you want, like any shift, morning shift, closing shift.
Is there like a requirement for you? I had some friends that worked at Disney before and they said like you really have to go through or how's the process of getting into USS like?
After the interview, you have to go through, I think, 3 days of training, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, then after that, you get to be on the job already. It's actually quite simple.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What specifically do you do? Like just entertain guests, is it? Or like, yeah, what do you do?
I did all the retail operations. So cashiering, the back end, the back of house, front of house, greeting the guests is one of the most fun parts of the job. I have to greet them like, hello, welcome to Myanmar.
Oh, okay, that's
Yeah.
interesting. Like having interacted with so many of these kind of tourists, right? Is there any kind of pattern that you see or things that you have taken away in meeting so many diverse group of people when it came to like being in a tourist industry? Yeah, technically it's a tourist industry. Like, is there any kind of stories from there?
I think as long as you're nice to everybody, most people are nice back to you. But
What are the worst encounters do you have when it comes to working at USS?
some people like to claim that they are right. Like for example, they see that they tell me that the price on the price tag is maybe $50, but it clearly says like maybe $57. And they keep on insisting that it is $50, and they will not like leave until they get the $50.
Oh, okay. So very now, basically.
Yeah.
Is there a pattern do you see with nationalities? Not asking you to call out people, but nothing to do with nationality, is it?
If I had to really squeeze something out, I think usually Japanese people are very polite. Yeah, Korean people are very bubbly. I don't know if it's because I'm a Korean also, so they feel very like happy seeing a fellow Korean. Yeah. Then other than that, I don't really see a pattern. Yeah, I think Pinoys are very, very friendly. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, more in terms of your general perspective of, let's say, I don't really believe in, let's say, like Koreans are Koreans, like the way they behave, and Singaporeans are Singaporeans, but just from your perspective, do you see anything you feel as special to Singaporeans and how we behave as a stereotypical thing, although it's something I don't really believe in, but like what's your general thoughts on Singaporeans in general?
If I have to compare it to Koreans, I think the thing about Singaporeans is that they're very relaxed.
Very relaxed.
Yeah, they're very relaxed.
I don't think Singaporeans are relaxed, okay?
I think they're quite slow paced as in compared to Koreans.
Really?
Yeah. They walk slower and they talk slower also. And they tend to do stuff slower.
Which part of South Korea do you come from? Is it like the city area or like?
I come from Seoul.
Seoul,
Yeah.
wow, okay. How often do you go back?
I only went back 2 or 3 times because I have school commitments.
Got it. Okay, is there anything last kind of advice would you give to anyone interested in going to NTU Business School?
Going to NTU Business School,
Any last kind of advice to whoever might be listening?
I would say be prepared for a lot of group works because every module will have group works, and be ready to make some friends and make some, not enemies, but potentially not like some people. You can't be liked by everyone and you can't like everyone also. I think while doing group work is kind of a struggle to make sure that all your group mates do your group work. I think that's the most important thing about business school. Yeah.
Is there any story behind that? Like, what do you mean make enemies? Like, is it like people not taking up responsibilities or the kind of things that they should do? And for yourself, how do you work around it?
I think the worst one was my group mates actually sent in another report to my professor after the deadline. And they said that please mark this instead for just especially for her because she thought that our work wasn't good enough. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it's not aligning in terms of expectations from them.
Yeah, but in the end, our professor kind of settled it well.
How do you deal with difficult group mates?
I try to talk to them like very calmly, or tell them like, oh, if you don't do this, then you'll not get good grades, so it doesn't benefit you. So why not we work on it together? Yeah, but most of the time they're just coming up with a lot of excuses lah. Like I'm sick or I got flu. You know.
What makes you angry when it comes to these kind of situations?
It's very hard to make me angry, but they make me angry when they put the blame on other people. Like they push it to, oh, it's because she didn't do her part, that's why I couldn't do my part. And they just like casually shift the blame away. I think that's very irresponsible.
Is this something you see in Singaporeans?
Not really. I think
it's not a nationality thing.
No.
Okay, got it. Okay, moving on to the last section of the podcast, right? This we just very, very generic questions, right? If you were to walk into a bookstore, right, and master any 3 subjects, right, what 3 subjects would you choose? Yeah. What are the first 3 subjects that comes to mind that you want to master?
Math,
Math? Why?
because I'm very bad at it.
But what do you need it for? In terms of what you are going to use that knowledge for in the future, if you are.
I think it will stimulate another part of the brain that is not stimulated by me now.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to be finally good at it.
When you say math, do you talk about data analytics specifically? I mean, that math is such a broad spectrum. Like, what is there any specific part that you're interested in?
Like probability.
Probability.
I think it's quite useful in business, but I'm not good at it.
Okay.
Because I don't know why, I'm just really bad at it.
Why are you interested in that?
I think probability applies in your daily life, like the probability of me getting here on time or like finishing this podcast by a timing. I think it's quite interesting, but something that I'm not good at. Yeah.
Got it. What's the second type of book that you want? Second type of topic that you want to master?
I don't know why, but music came into my head.
Music?
Yeah.
Are you a musician?
I used to play the piano and violin a bit, just for a very short while. Yeah, I think it's very nice to be able to play an instrument. So I wish I could learn to read the scores and play guitar. I think it's very cool.
Do you play a guitar or ukulele or anything?
No, I
Not
don't.
right now.
Yeah, not right
Music? Do you sing?
now. Sometimes the karaoke.
Okay, got it. What would be the third topic that you want to master?
Master. I think I like to master another language. So maybe Japanese.
Language?
Yeah.
You're already trilingual already. Wow. Why Japanese?
I think Japanese is a very adorable language that's different from Chinese, different from English, different from Korean. Yeah, I think it's a very feminine language that's not like English. English sounds very professional, sounds very like business-like. So I want to learn something that's more feminine and soft. Yeah.
Not Russian, is it? Russian sounds too
Russian
aggressive,
sounds
is it?
too aggressive for my liking.
Okay. So you like a language based on how nice it sounds? Is
Yeah, in a sense. I think that's the charm of learning new languages. Because you just sound like a different person. Because the language itself, like the way you pronounce things are different. I think that's very interesting.
Do you do any work with regards to translation between English and Korean?
I actually used
Like
to
for
do
businesses?
Yeah, I used to do business interpretations before COVID happened. And
What is business interpretations?
so like we'll sit like this and there'll be a Korean like businessman here and there'll be a Singaporean businessman.
Oh,
Yeah, like just
my
translate.
gosh.
What they're saying.
Could you share some stories about it? Like, what do they talk about? And would you need to know any kind of lingo? I'm not sure. Like, how is it like?
I feel that most Korean businessmen are very prepared, so they actually learn beforehand. Although they have an interpreter on hand, they still learn some words. And then like we'll like
Learn
have this
English, is it?
yeah,
Or-
like a slight bit of business terms.
Okay.
But you just have to say it in a more Korean way and they will understand. Yeah. Like management, you say it's like management
Wow.
like this kind of thing.
Is it like a business? Like, do you have a website for it? Or like how do you even get such gigs?
Oh, it's just on like this Korean website like used by Koreans in Singapore. There's a lot of like translation jobs on there.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Are you very active in Korean communities in Singapore?
I used to be when I had more friends here, but after all they returned to Korea, not really.
So all of them return to Korea.
Yeah, it's very sad.
What is the most common reason of why they will return? Is it mostly because of family or career or?
They just feel that Singaporean culture is not right for them. Like, because Koreans are very impatient and they want to do things very fast and very hot-tempered.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. And for yourself, for your family, do you plan to stay here long term? Is Singapore the place that you want to reside for a long period of time, or would you find somewhere else like I don't know, New York, Seoul? I don't know. Are you considering to stay here for a long period of time compared to your peers?
Actually, my brother just after he served NS, he got his Singapore citizenship just yesterday, I think.
Wow!
Yeah,
Congratulations! So he actually went to serve national service.
Yeah.
Does he talk to you about how is it like serving as a? I assume that his the degree of localization into him already is quite high given that he has served NS, right?
Yeah.
I mean, does he share it with you? Like, what kind of do you see a pattern in him? Like, how is it like having a brother who went through national service?
I just know that he comes home very tired. Yeah,
right?
he doesn't.
Is he serving his national service right now?
No, he's
or
not.
he ORD already?
Yeah, he ORD already.
Oh, what's he doing right now?
He's working at a company. Yeah.
What is his profession?
I'm not sure.
Oh, you're not sure of what your brother does? Okay, no worries, it's okay. Okay, the next question. What do you do during your free time?
During my free time, I like to play mobile games.
Mobile games? What kind of mobile games?
I like to play Brawl Stars, the game with a lot of cute characters.
Okay, I have no idea about it.
No, you don't know what's Brawl Stars?
I feel like I'm too old for that. What, Brawl Stars?
Yeah, Brawl Stars.
Okay, got it. I feel so old, damn it. Last few questions. What's the best advice have you ever received in your life?
In my life, just be happy. I think that's the most important
How do you
thing.
just be happy? What makes you happy?
I think ignorance is bliss. If you actually don't think about the negatives, you just sit there and just blank out a bit, then you just think of the happy things and slowly become happier.
But wouldn't ignoring the realities slowly chip away at you and slowly that eventually you have to face it?
But I think reality is too harsh to face it just like that. I think it's important to know what to ignore and when to ignore. If not, I think sometimes life can be too challenging. Yeah.
Is there a story that you could share about choosing the things that you want to ignore?
So when I first came to Singapore, I think because I couldn't speak the language, so I didn't have a lot of friends. But I chose to ignore that, and I just chose to look at the new environment that I was in. I chose to indulge in the physical, the fact that I'm in Singapore in a new country, instead of acknowledging that I have no friends around me. Then just by that, I became happier. And if you're a brighter person, more people will be attracted to you. So that actually got me more friends than if I just want to sit there and be sad that I had no friends. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I agree with that. That's a very optimistic way of saying focusing on the happy side, and eventually things would like things attract. What's the worst advice have you ever received?
Worst advice? Oh, I think it's more like a false hope when people tell you that you get everything you want if you work very hard. I think this actually made me. When I got rejected by NUS, that was the first rejection I've ever had in my life.
Wow.
So I think
Okay.
that was the most painful thing. I mean, in terms of academics. Yeah, and I didn't know how to deal with rejection because I thought that, I studied very hard, but how come I cannot go in? So I think from there I learned that just because you work hard doesn't mean you get what you want.
So how do you solve that?
By looking at it at the bright side, I'm like, maybe economics is not for me. Maybe I'm meant for something else. So I went to explore other paths.
Okay, that's interesting. In terms of this I find that you are in general, a very positive person. In terms of how you got this kind of perspective, right? Is there any kind of mentors, books that you refer to, or is mainly the family that your father has instilled in you? Like, how did you get this kind of optimism? Because I have friends that are very depressing and very pessimistic, but how do you get this kind of optimism in your life?
I think it's because my parents always told me that time will continue flying even though you don't make good use of it. So you better do something good with it. So I think after hearing that, I chose to be happy with my time than be sad about it because you don't know if you're going to die tomorrow. And in general, my parents are always very hardworking. So even though they face a lot of difficulties, sometimes they fall sick and stuff like that, I still feel that because they work so hard, they motivate me to work hard also. And if you work very hard, you forget about the sadness sometimes. And you slowly become happier, I think.
Okay, got it. What's next for you after NTU?
I want to pursue a career in marketing, in brand management in particular, because I think branding is a very important part of a business. Yes.
Okay. What tangible events will need to happen to you in the next year that will make it the best year for your life? Just 1 year.
Just 1 year?
Yeah. 1 year from now, what tangible events would need to happen to make it the best year for her life next year?
I want to see my mom in the healthiest state that she can be, and my dad's business to be so good that he can take a bit more rest days because now he's working too hard. I think those two things will make me the happiest person ever.
Okay, got it. Chela, thanks so much for joining this podcast. Right, if there's anyone interested to reach out to you and find out more about your story, where are you most active on, and how can they reach out to you?
I'm the most active on Instagram.
Okay, got it. I'll be linking all the articles, the blogs accordingly, her Instagram account in the video description. And yes, lastly, is there anything else that you want to share with anyone that's potentially listening to this podcast?
If you're listening to this podcast and wanting to learn how to pick up English, I think the best tip for me was to just watch a lot of dramas.
Watch dramas,
Yes.
is it? Any specific drama to recommend?
I just watched those on MediaCorp.
MediaCorp! Oh my gosh, why MediaCorp? Okay, I won't go into that. But okay, thanks so much for sharing your story. And
Thank you.
hope to see you do well and all the best.
Thank you.
Okay,